Chiefs to under 13 points in the first half and some kind of way, limit their points production in the second half, the Saints can have a chance. I still think the Saints may need plus 28, maybe 31 points to win this game. Those are the things I'm looking at. I don't expect the Saints defense to shut down the Chiefs running game, but the Chiefs' strength is their running game. They don't have these breakaway wide receivers and all of that, but it's going to be important that the safety and linebacker play is solid, and we cannot avoid a game riddled with penalties. And Coach Payton's predictable play calling cannot occur in this game. We do need Pete Carmichael or Coach Payton to come with innovative and not such predictable plays. And we cannot leave drives in between the opponent's 40 and the Saints' 45 without getting field goals at some type of point.
Right.
Those are keys to success, from my perspective, for the Saints to win this game in Arrowhead. Your thoughts, Casey? How can the Saints win this game?
Watch Marcus Peters. Watch Eric Berry. I think the Saints have a great chance of winning this game. And a lot of people have been saying, the Kansas City rushing attack is such a great rushing attack. Well, guys, Saints are 29th. That's your answer about our rushing attack, Professor. We're 29th in the league. Kansas City is not that great. They're only 14th in the league in rushing, okay? And that, in my opinion, doesn't make me feel as poorly as we once did because, we played Oakland, and Oakland ran up and down the field on us, and they're only 13th, ranked 13th in the league. So we have possibly a similar type of scenario to go on, and Davidson and Fairley are going to have to play a lot better, and Jenkins a lot better up the middle because they have a tendency to like to play between those two guards that they have, right, to run the ball. Alex Smith is not going to light the world on fire down the field, guys. We've got to remember that. Right now, as far as the type of play you get from Alex Smith, you're not going to get one of these. You're not going to get Ben Roethlisberger back there, right? And you're not going to have a guy that's going to really. He's a game manager, and he's managing the game very well for Andy Reid. So the Saints are going to have to be patient, but we've got to be able to find a way. He's still mobile. We still have to find a way to put some pressure on him. So Cam Jordan, Edebali, they've got to be able to be effective in pressuring him and getting to him. And you saw it again. It happened again against Carolina when Cam Jordan has an opponent's quarterback ready to sack. He somehow lets them out of his grasp. He's been notorious for doing that most of his career. So if you get Alex Smith, he's not as strong as Cam Newton, but you've got to find a way to sack him. So those are just some of the things I think. But we've got to take care of the ball, of course. Drew can't have those errant throws out in the open. He's had some historically good games as a Charger in Arrowhead. And I believe the last time the Saints played in Arrowhead, we won that game with Drew. So, and I remember Deuce had a good game that game as well. So I believe we can go in and we can produce and we can win. We just got to be smarter about how we play. And the safety's going to have to really do well. If it's going to be Bird back there, he's going to have to be ready to make a play on the ball because Alex Smith is just going to throw those intermediate passes, man. So we've got to be ready to be able to defend the midsection of the field and not allow those tight ends also to get down the field, down the seams, and create some big plays against us.
If I'm not mistaken, the Saints have beaten them 3 out of the last 10. I know in 12 We lost to them in a game that the Saints should have won. I know in '08, if I'm not mistaken, the Saints did go to Arrowhead. And
we won. We won. That's the game. Deuce had a good game, and yeah, we won that game.
And I think also in '04 under Jim Haslett, the Saints beat them in the Superdome.
Right.
And if I'm not mistaken, before that, either '01 or 2000, the Saints have had a lot of success against the Chiefs.
Right now, we're 5-5 against them. Historically, we're 5-5 against the Chiefs.
And I think the Saints have won 3 or 4 out of the last 5 contests.
Yeah, and I was listening when they were in the Superdome that time. I was driving from New Orleans back to Houston, listening to it, and when Jamal Charles just ran for 90 yards, I still recall that, man. That was just like, I was just shaking my head.
The game in which the Saints outplayed them.
The whole game.
Jared Hardy missed a couple of field goals. Drew Brees threw an interception in the end zone.
Yep.
They had a touchdown call back. It was a game that the Saints had thoroughly dominated them, and that's when the Saints started that 0-4 season in 12. So the Saints are capable of playing with this team. The offensive line is going to have to play really well with the noise and Arrowhead versus that front line of the Chiefs that are going to have Julian Houston back, which he's probably not going to be 100% because he's been out most seasons. So that's a plus. He's not going to be 100% football shape just yet. So there are ways that this game is possible. And with the NFL being the way it is, and then what I saw of Kansas City 2 weeks ago when they got shellacked by the Pittsburgh Steelers and that offense, and the Saints offense is just as potent and the potential to put a point as Pittsburgh, that gives me hope. My only concern is will the younger players not be intimidated in that environment because they look intimidated now when they go into these outdoor stadiums. I don't know why the Saints just look, sometimes they can look inept like they did against the Giants, and we now see that the Giants were not a great team.
You know who looks intimidated, in my opinion? Sean Payton. And I'm saying this, and I'm not saying it to be little coach, but he is not as aggressive when he plays outside stadiums. You notice that? He plays very, very cautiously. Even the games we play in Tampa, whenever we were beating up Tampa, right? He still was being conservative at times. I'm just saying.
I do notice that the Saints look like two different teams on the road in terms of their offense. They look like two different teams now, one on the road and one. And before the after the 2013 season when Coach came back, the Saints had one of the best road records.
Mm-hmm.
They had one of the best road records.
But we also had a pretty good rushing attack.
So let's hope that he will just come blazing out with everything. Because if the Saints can win this game, you have a lot of momentum. You have gained a lot of momentum if you go on the road in Kansas City and beat the Chiefs. And who do the Saints play next week after the Chiefs? Who that's coming up next?
Yeah,
Denver?
we have to go to Denver.
We have Denver next week.
Mm-hmm.
That's in the Superdome. So you've got a lot of momentum. Denver doesn't look that great. Seattle doesn't look that great. None of these teams.
No, I take that back. I apologize, Professor, because we're in week 7, right? So let's see. Saints at Kansas City. Week 8, we play Seattle.
Who do we play in week 7?
This is week 7 for the league. So
week for the league. So our next game is Seattle.
We play Seattle in New Orleans, which is going to be great. So we can beat Seattle. I really believe we can beat Seattle.
So the Saints have an opportunity to save their season.
Right. And then
they have an opportunity to save their season with these next 3 games.
And then we play San Francisco in San Francisco. And they are not playing that well. but still, we got to play in San Francisco, and we usually have tough games in San Francisco for some reason. So, the next 3 games are critical. I mean, critical, very critical for the Saints.
They got to learn how to play on grass.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't understand why the Saints struggling on grass. Because that's when they don't look. When they play on grass, they didn't look the greatest last year in the Tampa game, even though they won it. They didn't look the greatest playing on that grass in San Diego. Now the Giants field, I don't know if it's natural grass or they don't.
No,
I don't know
that's not natural.
Outdoors.
Yeah,
they do not look the greatest when they're playing outdoors. And Brandon Cooks and Willie Snead have got to show up when the Saints are on the road. Brandon Cooks and Willie Snead are disappearing when the Saints go out on the road. They're disappearing in games.
But they're disappearing because of a couple of reasons. One, the type of teams we're playing and the type of defense we're playing against, right? Verrett in that Chargers game just did a great job shadowing Cooks and shutting him down. So someone else has to step up. So right now you have a young Michael Thomas who is gaining confidence in his abilities, and Drew is gaining confidence in throwing that ball to him in some tight windows. You notice that, right? So we have a guy like that. If you have Willie Snead to be able to come back and make an impact, we're going to have something going. And Tom Lee's that little sneaky guy. You don't know what you're going to get, but if he's able to fill some of those voids and find some spaces that they're going to play zone in and just drop the ball to him, I think these guys can be able to be effective. Are we going to have the long passes? We probably will have to take some shots, but who will be the person down the field? Because Cooks is going to be shadowed by Marcus Peters, right? So I don't anticipate Brandon Cooks having a high volume game. So that falls on Thomas, Brandon Coleman, Willie Snead, and Tommy Lee Lewis right now. So those guys are going to have to pick up the slack.
And that's right. Josh Hill and Colby Fleener are going to be extra because the Saints
they're important too. Right.
Too many weapons. If you shut down one, you should not be shutting down all 6, though.
That is very, very true, man. They've got to be critical.
Shut down all 6 of them. So they got the wide receivers and tight ends got to bring their A game.
Yeah, that's a good point. Real good point, Professor. I mean, so you look at the. I'm just going to say this, Professor, because I was looking at the Chiefs as a team, right? And you look at their season stats, they're not that great, in my opinion. So our defense has seen better offenses. If our defense are able to even make a play or two, have a couple of takeaways, if we're able to do that and put some pressure on them to be able to make plays, because they are average or even below average when it comes to the yardage for the whole season. I think Kansas City as a whole, their total offense is just around 1,700 yards.
Oh, they have not played that great in these first 5 games. They're 3-2, and the last 3 games, they have been very shaky. But what happened against the Raiders was impressive. They held the Raiders to 10 points.
Raiders had some miscues, though, man. I mean, you can't have 5 straight possessions and come away with nothing. You can't do that in the second half. You could. That's where the Raiders fell flat. Saints can't fall flat. If you're going to be on the road, you've got to at least, especially in the second half of that game, they have to score at least 3 to 4 times. 3 to 4 times.
Because I look for the Saints to play decent in the first half, and then they get tired. The defense gets tired, and that's what Drew and them are going to have to keep it up. So we're going to predict some scores. I'm going to go out on a limb and say the Saints in this game in Kansas City. My prediction in an upset that the Saints win this game by 2 points. I don't have a score for you. Something tells me 30-28. in an upset